Good morning. This is Sid Karamboy again from Bolton Install Pros. We are here in beautiful Silicon Valley, California, talking to Scott Terry, VP of Engineering here at SureCall. And we are very excited this morning because we are talking about a revolutionary new product in the signal boosting space, which is SureCall's very own SignalMax Fiber DAS. And so we want to go over a few of the innovations that SureCall have put together, and we're talking this morning to really one of the great minds in this space, right? So getting started, give us a high-level overview of the box itself and how it compares to the traditional offerings
Sure.
that SureCall have given
What
us.
we have is called a hybrid DAS. It's got use copper and fiber combined, and by having the fiber in between your donor antenna and all your server antennas, you can go long distances without any losses. So it's also much cheaper. You don't run copper all over a building, so it's just much more convenient, and it's very scalable. It's great for large installations.
I mean, the innovation there is dramatic. At Bolton Install Pros, as you know, we've been installing these systems now for going on just over 10 years. And I can tell you categorically that this is by far one of the most exciting advanced building owners, right? I mean, there's a lot of benefits here that we can put into play fairly quickly for them.
Yes, it's very easy to install. It's basically plug and play. So it's very quick. You have a system up, and you can monitor it remotely. It's very, very simple system.
So I want to kind of run into really the next real important part of our conversation. So which is, and why a fiber-based? I mean, why it's what, in addition to the things that you've just said, from a technology perspective, from a performance perspective, why would you say going this direction is the right one for a customer?
You know, we found a lot of customers don't want to run miles of copper in a building. It's very inconvenient. It makes it much tougher to install. It does affect performance as well, quite a bit. So, you know, in larger buildings, it's much more convenient to use fiber.
And I think that's a key point, right? It's certainly not a one-fits-all situation, and we have had instances, especially in larger buildings, and by larger buildings I would say anything north of 150, 200,000 square feet, where traditional systems do pose challenges. I mean, we are able to overcome these challenges, but they do end up having us put a lot of copper in the building, or
It affects performance.
and it does impact performance, right? And we have to put in additional amplifiers
Yes.
to compensate for that. So I'm really glad that you talked about the benefit that it does, especially in larger building scenarios. But at the same time, it's this particular box, and correct me if I'm wrong, is so versatile that even on smaller buildings, we can have excellent, cost-effective outcomes
Yeah.
using this very same box.
Yes, you can. And in fact, our outside box, our MU, master unit, can be located outside right by the donor antenna. And so it gives you the best performance because it has the least amount of loss right away. You capture the signal immediately. And so even a smaller install, it's much better for performance.
And I think that's where the flexibility does come in with this product, right? And it presents an excellent value proposition to the installer community, that if we're able to install the main unit in that location rather than run extensive amounts of copper on the donor end, it's almost a no-brainer. It's almost shocking that this is one of the first products that uses this technology.
We're real happy about the architecture. It really fits, you know, from our experience with a lot of these installs, it really fits it perfectly.
So from a real world benefit perspective, right? I want to talk a little bit about future proofing, which is always a very key conversation that any building owner wants some clarity on, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I know that we've been talking prior to this conversation on some of the scalability with regards to adding additional boxes into this system. So talk about that for us.
Well, we support, in each master unit, we support up to 4 remote units. So typically a customer will use maybe 1 or 2 to cover the space they need, but they may find there's a capacity issue or that they don't have coverage in a certain area, and so they can add another one in for minimal cost of just one RU, run the fiber up to the master unit, and now you have much more coverage. So it's very scalable as far as enhancing your coverage. We also can scale to different technologies. So we can add a C-band onto it, and it's just dropping a box in, and then combine the outputs, and it's very, very simple. It uses the same fiber going across it, so it's very scalable. You just put a box on each side, and you can add more bands. We can add new bands as they come in. So it's building or add new bands as they come in. So it's building or doesn't have to worry about where the technology is going.
So I'm gonna kind of spend just a little bit of time on when we've talked about this already on cost versus performance. So single antenna ports, right? Is it dramatically limiting over 3 as there might be on other systems?
For donor antenna, you're talking about?
Yes.
Yes, for donor. It's usually you can get around that simply by just using directional antennas, and we have a built-in signal meter in our unit which allows you to aim the antenna appropriately to balance each of the bands, and that's key. The only reason you'd separate with multiple antennas is if you have different signal strengths in different directions for each band. Generally it doesn't work that way because each operator has all their bands on one tower. So if you have a problem with one band, you have the same problem with all the bands. So usually we haven't found any issues. Just aim the single antenna, and you just aim it properly. That's a major part of an install.
And that's amazing because, you know, in fact, with the addition of the signal meter into the main unit, the ability and the flexibility that it affords the installer, and what they can do with managing load is something quite revolutionary.
It's real convenient, and you know, we have Bluetooth right there at the donor antenna, so you can end each of the remotes, so you can be right there at the donor antenna and moving around while you're looking at your app and seeing if the signals are balanced. So it makes the install much easier, and avoid a lot of problems that'll happen later.
And you guys are probably going to see on the screen as we're talking the interface that Scott is talking about, which really makes the ease of use and the way that it's been presented is extremely user friendly. So kudos to you guys on achieving that. We wanted to cover the FCC part. We wanted to cover the relationship with the carriers and how they integrate, and not just Verizon but the others as well. So I'll kind of take it goes without saying that as far as the bandwidth, the latency, the reliability, these are really the heart of every SureCall product, and anybody that has installed them and used them are well familiar with that. But we do want to talk about compliance, we want to talk about legalities, we want to talk about carrier confidence, if you like, and how this differentiates itself to a degree with other offerings that are on the market.
So, you know, back in many years ago, before the carriers worked with FCC on this, there were these rogue boosters out there that went out there and they would damage the network. They harmed the network. So, you know, the operators got together with the FCC and said, look, we got to control this. And so, you know, they came up with rules with if the boosters follow, it will not damage their network. So it's signed up by all the operators that they agreed to all this, and and they worked with the booster manufacturers as well. We worked with them on this at the same time and came up with rules that made sense, that won't damage their network but provide end user good signal. And so that's what we follow, and it's very clear rules we go by, and with that, this will not do anything to their network. We haven't had any complaints from the network operators at all from our products for 10 years. So it's very effective, and it does not cause problems with the network. And that's the main thing. They don't want their network to go down. It has to be reliable.
I appreciate that. And talk a little bit about what you just referenced, the Part 20 certification, yes, and what the certification means for the SignalMax.
Basically, Part 20, the main thing is you're limiting your uplink power. You can't have too much uplink power to add noise onto their system. So we do that. We match all those rules, but because we have our amplifier, our main master unit is located at the donor antenna, we still have more output power than most other boosters because we're right at the antenna. But it still doesn't damage your network. It's still within the rules completely. And so it's very effective, and compared to our competitors, it's more effective.
And does the SignalMax work with all U.S. and Canadian carriers that are
Yes.
approved for them?
That's right. Part 20 covers all Canadian and U.S. operators. That Canada, it's called something different, but it's the same rules.
That's beautiful.
And we get tested through FCC, so we're fully approved.
So, kind of pivoting a little bit into the basic characteristics of the offering here is what square footage do you rate the system to cover?
There's, I mean, it can go up to 1 million square feet if depending on your building shape and
Right.
what's in it. It's so hard to say what you can actually cover because a lot of it depends on the structure inside the building, the walls and everything else you have. But it can be anywhere from 10,000 square feet to 1 million square feet.
I love it.
It's very scalable.
I love it. And can multiple systems be combined into a solution?
Yeah, I mean, we already have equivalent of 16 boosters inside one of our systems because we have 4 remote units and 1 master unit. But you can always put more on. Absolutely, you can put a whole other system on. You just have 2 donor antennas. It's
What
very
would
simple.
you say the best type of building that is almost an ideal fit for this solution?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, the ideal is high rises. It's really perfect for high rises because you can't run copper. Generally, high rise you have to put the donor antenna on the roof. You can't put it halfway down the building. So with a traditional booster system, you can't run all that copper down 30 floors. Where with our system, you can run fiber all the way down, have no loss in your signal, and put the RU down there. So it's really built perfectly for high rises.
And what about hospitals, campuses, warehouses,
Anything-
historic
yeah,
buildings?
Anything that covers, historic buildings, you have a lot of losses going through, so you have to put your antennas everywhere. But if it's smaller, it's still okay if you have a traditional system. But anything that's larger, that spreads out over a large area, you really can't run copper that far without losing signal.
So, for example, in a large hospital, this would essentially be the only real go-to solution available.
For sure, yeah. It'd be real difficult to put a traditional system in a large hospital, absolutely. Yeah.
And this is a question maybe that I can answer, but there are no hidden costs to this, right? It's a one-time setup. There's
Yeah.
no recurring monthly
No.
fee. I mean, we have obviously our annualized
Remote
cloud
access,
monitoring
yeah.
fee,
Yeah.
but that's
it's
really,
minimal.
it's very minimal.
Yeah.
And that's about it, which is such an important consideration when going up against other solutions.
That's right, yeah. And we're not causing that much power load, too, so you're not paying monthly on your power bill either. It's 40 watts per box, so.
So I thank you for your time this morning and your insights and all of the insight that you've provided to us. From a next steps perspective, we invite you guys to come out to signalboosters.com, to boltoninstallpros.com, and to SureCall.com to look at the SignalMax Fiber DAS. By far one of the most exciting products of the year, and a revolutionary approach to providing cost-effective signal boosting solutions to, as you heard Scott talk about, to virtually any type of building, and especially as you get into larger buildings and you get into high-rise buildings and you get into certain like school campuses where multiple buildings need to be covered, and as well as hospital campuses. These are it's a very exciting entrant, and I keep saying the word exciting, and I hope you understand that it's exuberance that does that.
Excited.
So thank you so very much once again.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.